Hello and welcome to My Karate, My Life. I'm Chrissy Howard. This podcast is a space for stories, lessons and reflections from a lifetime of karate. I've spent over 4 decades training, teaching and learning, not just how to move but how to grow. And through that time I've come to realise that karate is never just about technique, it's about who you become along the way. In this podcast I'll be sharing personal stories from my journey, the challenges, the doubts, the lessons that have stayed with me and the moments that shaped not only my karate but my life. We'll talk about confidence, about fear, about resilience and about what it really means to keep going even when things feel difficult. Some episodes will be quiet reflections, some will be lessons from the dojo and some will be conversations with others walking their own martial path. This isn't about being the best, it's about showing up, learning and continuing, no matter where you are on your journey. Whether you've trained for years or you've never stepped into a dojo, I hope something here speaks to you. So thank you for being here and I look forward to sharing this journey with you. Hi everyone and welcome back to My Karate, My Life podcast. I'm Chrissy Howard and this is episode 10. Wherever you're listening from today, thank you for being here. Grab a coffee, settle in, and let's begin. Today, I'll be talking about a subject that every martial arts instructor, coach, parent, and/or mentor will encounter at some point. What should we do when a child tells us they don't want to come to karate anymore? Of course, at first glance, it could seem straightforward. We could ask, perhaps they're lazy, perhaps they're losing interest. Perhaps they're going through a phase, but what if it isn't that simple? What if disruptive behaviour, lack of enthusiasm, repeated absences, tears before class, or a sudden change in attitude are actually signs that something deeper is happening? Of course, as instructors, we have a responsibility not only to teach karate, but also to create environments where children feel safe, respected, and heard. Today, I'll talk about why children may not want to attend karate, the psychology behind motivation and behaviour, the importance of professional curiosity, the role of parents and of instructors, why the child's voice must always matter, practical steps to take and useful support services. I'll also reflect on my own childhood experiences of karate because like many martial artists, there were times, despite my love for karate, when I didn't want to train either. When I was young, there were periods when I didn't want to go to karate. But my parents felt I should continue. Looking back, they probably thought they were teaching commitment and resilience. Sometimes they were, of course, right. Sometimes I was simply tired. Sometimes I was overwhelmed by school, friendships, or life. But there were also occasions when the issue was much more complex. Later in my karate journey, I experienced difficulties with an instructor. At those moments, perhaps more exploration and listening might have been helpful. For sure, it would have been helpful. The challenge for adults is understanding the difference between temporary resistance, genuine distress, burnout, fear, loss of enjoyment, and/or a safeguarding concern. And that requires curiosity rather than assumptions. One of the most important principles in child psychology is behaviour is communication. Children often struggle to articulate complicated feelings. Adults tend to ask, "Why are you behaving like this?" But a better question may be, "What is this behaviour trying to tell us?" Consider a child who becomes disruptive during class, refuses to participate, constantly argues, appears withdrawn, suddenly loses concentration, or starts arriving upset. The easy interpretation might be, that child is naughty. And if you can put your hand up for never having made that assumption, then you're a better human than me. Because there are times when I too have expressed frustration when a child has been appearing naughty. The thing I know about myself though, and I hope you know this about yourself too, is that I never really park anything. If I have a thought or feeling, it comes home with me, and then I'll choose to unpack it and reflect on what might have been going on, but more importantly, what could I have done that might have been better? Psychologists increasingly recognise that challenging behaviour often reflects an unmet need. That need might be anxiety, exhaustion, feeling excluded, fear of failure, social difficulties, bullying, lack of enjoyment, or even pressure from adults. It could even be something entirely unrelated to karate. The behaviour itself is not always the problem. It may be the symptom. Modern psychology provides an interesting framework called self-determination theory. This was developed by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan. The theory suggests that humans thrive with 3 psychological needs are met. Autonomy, the feeling that we have a choice. Children who feel forced into activities may lose motivation. 2. Competence, the feeling that we are capable. A child struggling with techniques or grading expectations may begin to avoid training. Relatedness, the feeling that we belong. Friendships and positive instructor relationships matter enormously. When one or more of these needs are not met, enthusiasm often declines. A child saying, "I don't want to go," may actually be saying, "I don't feel good enough, I don't fit in, I don't feel heard, I don't feel safe, I don't have any choice." This is where things become challenging. Parents and instructors often worry that listening to a child's wishes will encourage them to quit when something becomes difficult. That concern is understandable. Karate teaches perseverance. Life requires resilience. But resilience is not the same as ignoring distress. A child learning to push through temporary discomfort is healthy. A child being forced through genuine unhappiness is different. The philosophical challenge is asking, am I teaching perseverance, or am I teaching that their feelings don't matter? There is a significant difference. I've been working in safeguarding role now for a number of years, and in safeguarding we often talk about professional curiosity. Professional curiosity means looking beyond the obvious, asking respectful questions, exploring rather than assuming, remaining open-minded. When a child says, "I don't want to come to karate," the curious instructor doesn't immediately conclude, "You're just being difficult." Instead, they wonder, why now? Has something changed? Is this sudden or gradual? What else is happening in their life? Have there been any changes at school or at home? Is there something happening in the dojo? Curiosity is one of the most important safeguarding skills an instructor can develop. In an age-appropriate conversation, instructors might gently ask, "How are you finding karate lately? What do you enjoy the most? What do you enjoy the least? Is anything worrying you? Is there anything you would change? How are things at school? How are things at home?" Some children reveal concerns immediately. Sometimes they don't. But being given the opportunity to speak can be incredibly important. Certain changes may indicate a child needs support. These include emotional signs, frequent tearfulness, anxiety before training, loss of confidence, or increased frustration. The behavioural signs, disruptive in class, aggressive, withdrawn, and/or refusal to participate. Physical signs might be repeated complaints of illness, headaches, stomach aches before class, or even fatigue. The social signs might be isolation from peers, friendship difficulties, and/or being left out or feeling left out. Karate-specific signs might be a sudden drop in performance, fear of sparring, avoiding grading, reluctance to interact with instructors. None of these signs prove a problem, but they should trigger curiosity. Modern safeguarding places significant emphasis on hearing the child's voice. I say child, but when I say child, in addition to children, we have to look out for vulnerable adults too. Both children and vulnerable adults have rights. One of these is the right to express their views and have those views considered. Notice the wording. Not necessarily agree with, but considered. Listening doesn't mean immediately allowing the child to quit. It means genuinely exploring their experience. Too often, adults have conversations about children rather than with them. The child becomes the subject of discussion rather than the participant. This, of course, would be the same for a vulnerable adult or somebody with additional needs. Good practice means bringing the child into the conversation and/or vulnerable adult wherever possible. Parents and carers usually want the best for their child or vulnerable adult. However, parents may have different motivations. Some value discipline and confidence building, some value commitment and achievement. They are all positive goals. But sometimes, unintentionally, these can be overlooked. And we should ask, what is the child experiencing? An instructor can help by approaching conversations carefully. For example, you might say, I've noticed Jamie seems less enthusiastic recently. Has he mentioned anything at home? This opens discussion rather than created defensiveness. The best outcomes usually come from collaboration between the child, the parent, and the instructor. The child gets to express their feelings. The parent gets to express observations and offer support. The professional gets to consider all three perspectives and a clearer picture emerges. After exploration, several possibilities may emerge. Outcome 1. Temporary fatigue. The child may simply need better rest, reduced commitments, and a short break. Outcome 2. There may be a loss of enjoyment. Perhaps training has become repetitive. New challenges or goals may help. Outcome 3. Anxiety. Supportive adjustments may be needed. That brings me on to thinking about how it was before, when we were taught like robots and there was one single standard and no consideration for any additional needs or physical impairments, mental impairments. We all were just expected to perform the same. Outcome 4 could be relationship difficulties, issues with peers or instructors that may need addressing. Outcome 5, the child truly wants to stop training. And this possibility must also be respected. Not every child needs to remain in karate forever. Success should not be measured solely by retention. Sometimes success is helping a child make a thoughtful decision. Martial arts are often associated with discipline, but true martial arts are always about wisdom. Ancient philosophical traditions repeatedly emphasize understanding before judgment. A wise instructor seeks first to understand, not simply to control. A dojo should never become a place where obedience is valued over well-being. The purpose of karate is human development. If we lose sight of the human being in front of us, we lose sight of karate itself. Occasionally, a child not wanting to attend may reveal something more serious. Bullying, emotional abuse, excessive pressure, fear, inappropriate behaviour from others. This is why instructors must always follow safeguarding procedures. Listen, record, report appropriately. Never promise secrecy. Never investigate beyond your role. Always follow club safeguarding policies. Here are a couple of useful steps. When a child, I say when because it won't be if, it will be when, When a child says they don't want to attend karate, stay calm and listen. Avoid judgment. Explore with curiosity. Speak with parents appropriately. Document concerns if necessary. Follow safeguarding procedures when required. Review and monitor. Keep the child's voice central throughout. Perhaps one of the greatest lessons karate can teach is not how to punch harder or kick faster. Perhaps it is learning how to truly listen. As instructors, we stand in positions of trust. A child may only hint at what they are feeling. They may communicate through behaviour rather than words. They may not yet have the language to explain what is wrong. Our responsibility is to remain curious, to remain compassionate, to look beyond their behaviour, and to remember that every child deserves to feel heard. Sometimes perseverance is the answer. Sometimes support is the answer. Sometimes a difficult conversation is the answer. The key is ensuring we never stop listening. Does your dojo market the child line number? Does your dojo market the NSPCC helpline number? Do you know who your local LADO is, the local authority's designated officer for safeguarding? If you don't, you can easily find them by Googling them for your local area. Useful contacts and support are, of course, Childline. For children and young people, they can phone 0800 1111. The Childline number is available 24 hours a day and is free to contact. The NSPCC helpline, this is for adults concerned about a child, 0808 800 5000. For safeguarding guidance and training, you can contact NSPCC Learning. Sport England Safeguarding also provide guidance for clubs and instructors. Sport England Safeguarding Resources. The UK Government guidance on keeping children safe. Keeping children safe in education guidance. Children rarely need us to have all of the answers. What they need most is to know that someone is willing to listen to their questions, to listen to their concerns, fears and feelings. Thank you for joining me in episode 10 of My Karate, My Life. Until next time, train hard, stay curious, and remember that the strongest voice in any safeguarding conversation should always be the child or the vulnerable adult.